Welcome back to the Out of Bounds podcast. I'm Gavin Williams alongside
Charlie Calieri.
And today,
CJ Moore once again.
There we go.
Once again.
March Madness was just the selection show just happened on Sunday. You know it's Tuesday, currently at 11:35 a.m. Just updated. Tuesday, March 17th. We're ready for some March Madness. Game start tonight at what we got? 9:15.
6:40.
6:40. Who's the first one up? We have
6:40 is
UMBC.
UMBC versus Howard, the 16 seeds, and then the 9:15 game is the 11 seeds, Texas taking on NC State, and then tomorrow we got at 6:40 again the 16 seeds, Prairie View A&M versus Lehigh, and then the 11 seeds, Miami, Ohio versus SMU. Those will be some good games, I think, all four of them.
Yeah, I'm excited. I think specifically the one I'm looking forward to the most is NC State, Texas. I think that can be an actual really good game.
I agree. I think there's some interesting teams in here. Obviously, these bubble teams, we talk about them for about a month leading up to these games, so we're very familiar with Miami, Ohio, and SMU for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And then Texas and NC State. I mean, they're teams that are known to NC State more so to go on a run.
Yeah.
And definitely starting with a game. And we've seen in years past, there's been a trend of teams in the first four, even the 16 seeds in Fairleigh Dickinson a few years ago, winning a game in the tournament. So can one of these teams, and I'm assuming one of these teams that wins one of these games may win a game in the next round. Maybe not to jump the gun here a little bit, but do you guys think that any of these teams, and which one, if so, would win a first round game, barring that they get past obviously this first four game?
Right now it's a little contradictory to my bracket because I have BYU going pretty far, but I think whoever wins the NC State Texas game could also beat BYU. They're both very good teams. NC State has had a lot of ups and downs this year. Same thing with Texas. They beat a lot of good teams, but they've also lost to a lot of bad teams. So whoever wins that game definitely has a shot against BYU.
I totally agree with that same exact reasoning, but I also want to add in the winner of SMU and Miami, Ohio has to go against Tennessee. And I actually think this Tennessee team has the perfect path just to get to the Sweet 16. But yeah, I'm gonna agree. I think NC State probably comes out of this game tonight. I'm gonna predict that. So I'll predict that NC State goes into the second round.
If somebody had to, I agree. I think that's probably the most likely one. I think out of the 16 seeds, if I had to guess, I think Florida's the one that would go down.
Really?
Yeah, I think a team like Lehigh would be able to take down the national champion, like a reverse of the Virginia UMBC.
Okay.
I think that could be it, but maybe UMBC does it again. I don't know. Maybe Howard does it.
That would be
I
awesome
don't know.
if UMBC does
That'd be nuts.
Again.
That would be in Buffalo. That'd be pretty cool. But not to my Michigan Wolverines. That would be pretty tough. But regardless, that's the first four right there. We will talk about those games a little bit, but let's get into region by region, go through the games, talk about some teams that we think are interesting, and then at the end, we'll go through, say, our potential Final Four. You know, it's never set in stone because of how many different brackets you have, but the best that we have right now, we can give our Final Fours and potentially a national champion at the end, too. So let's start at the top. Duke, the number one overall seed, versus Siena, a team that we saw and have seen over the last 4 years here at St. Bonaventure for the Franciscan Cup. Gavin Doty and company will be representing.
Saw him post on TikTok.
Yeah, we'll be representing the MAC in the first round of the NCAA tournament in Greenville. I'm pretty sure this game will be in.
I'm pumped for Siena. I mean, just seeing that GMAC. I am. I mean, seeing that GMAC already led that squad to the march to a dance, a bid, and I mean, you know, it's honestly, you know, like when you're like a MAC school or something, it's just like an honor to make the dance. Like that's the goal. Like the goal. I mean, obviously, you'd like to win a game, but the goal is to make the dance. That is your national championship, and you know, Duke's probably gonna run on them pretty well, especially with the boozers and company. But just I'm happy for Siena, happy for GMAC, and I'm curious if Syracuse will call GMAC up and be like, hey, we messed up and we want
Maybe
you now.
if they keep this game close, you never know.
I don't know. Huh?
CJ, any thoughts about... I mean, I was hoping that LIU would be playing Duke just for the chance of rooting again. I mean, I'm fine that LIU's not playing Michigan. That was the one thing I didn't want. I'm fine that they're playing Arizona. I can root for the Fins up, you know, during that game. But back to that Siena game. I mean, any thoughts about, maybe not that game specifically, Steve, but anything about that Duke team?
Kind of like Gavin was saying, obviously Siena, I don't think they have a chance in this game, but it's kind of like a stepping stone for them in the future. Almost, they're making the tournament this year. Maybe they can build off of that, get some new guys, new recruits. who want to play in the NCAA tournament, and maybe they can build themselves up to a better seed in the coming years. And then, like you said, Duke is a little bit injured right now, but I don't think they'll really feel those injuries in the first game that much. I don't think Siena has any pushback on them. Although I feel like Duke does need to be healthy for that second round game, though.
I think Duke, I personally disagree with you just for the fact I was going to say I think they just need to be healthy by that Sweet 16 game, whether it be whoever comes out of that. I don't even want to speculate because I could see some upsets coming out of that lower bracket right there. But that Ohio State TCU game is the first game of the tournament. Pretty interesting there. The winner of that will play the winner of the Duke-Siena game. That's one of the biggest toss-up games of the tournament. I know it's right at the top of the bracket, but I had to talk about it. Ohio State, one of those bubble teams that everybody was talking about throughout the year. TCU battle-tested in the Big 12 throughout the season. You could in Ohio State as well in the Big 10. Very similar teams. It's really a toss-up. What do you guys think about this game?
I was also very back and forth on this game. TCU's won some good games they beat Florida, but they also have lost horrible games. And Ohio State, they've also won some good games too. They have a good resume. They're going to run through Bruce Thornton. I think Bruce Thornton's going to have to go for 30, 35 points in this game for them to have a chance to win. But TCU also has David Punch, so I feel like it'll be a good matchup in the post. I'm not really sure that Ohio State has anybody that can bang with him down low, but it's going to be a back and forth game, and I think it's going to be really low scoring actually.
I think specifically with this game, I think it was one of the hardest ones to pick out of the first round, at least for me with one of these 8-9 matchups, because I think with some of the other 8-9 matchups, I think I have some bias, like a Georgia and St. Louis that we'll get into in a little bit. But this was you brought up TCU beating Florida. That I think with every time I picked them, and I think I did like 4 or so brackets. The couple times I did pick them, it was because of that win. But then again, I picked Ohio State because, even having a nice little run in the Big Ten tournament and keeping it really close in Michigan, I think that's what really helped me kind of give them some hope. But I think this is like one of the coolest and probably one of the most fun 8-9 matchups this year.
I would definitely agree. I think Ohio State's just been really, really hot right now, and definitely that's going to help them. I think in this game, which is why I think they're going to come out on top of this game. Also, Thornton is going to have a big role in that. I wouldn't be shocked if Ohio State plays a very close, similar game to the Michigan game against Duke, if they do play that game. Maybe even upset them. I could see that. I think Duke is in a very tough spot where they're at, honestly. I think that Siena game even isn't the easiest game that they possibly could have gotten. They could have gotten a Howard versus UMBC matchup, but instead they got tasked against probably maybe the best 16 seed. Are we calling them that? And then 2 of the best teams in the 8-9, or 2 of the hottest teams in the 8-9. And then if we go further down in this bracket, we got St. John's versus Northern Iowa, an interesting 5-12 matchup. And then Kansas versus Cal Baptist, their first time in the tournament. So magic always happens there with the team against Bill Self, your team, CJ, who's very experienced in the tournament. Maybe with not this team specifically, but the coaching staff at least is pretty experienced. So what do you think about Kansas potentially moving on there, and then their future matchups? Do you think that Northern Iowa can maybe come out, or do you think that St. John's and Zuby Ejiofor are gonna, and Mr. Patino are gonna control that side of the bracket?
I think St. John's has no problem with Northern Iowa at all. I feel like they have a lot of momentum. Winning that Big East championship was just another accolade for them. They've been playing pretty well the last stretch of the season, and I think they're going to be motivated to just roll through this tournament. Obviously, probably going to have to match up with Kansas in the second round. Zuby Ejiofor playing against his former school should be a good matchup with him and Floyd Badunga, but in everything that I've been listening to the last few days, I feel like people are just talking about St. John's just rolling over Kansas. Nobody's even talking about Kansas that much. People bringing up the freshmen, they seem to just go past Darren Peterson right now. So I feel like they're going to hear a lot of that noise. They're going to try and block it out, but they're also going to want to prove something. So I feel like Kansas keeps this game close in the first half. It can be a very good game at the end of the game, and it could come down to last-second shot by Darren Peterson or something like that.
That would be a good storyline there, Gav. What do you think about that little part of the bracket? This is one of the more interesting little. What do we call this? Pods for the bracket? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean
pockets.
I think pockets is a good way to say it. But something I forgot to say when we first started, which honestly comes in perfectly right now. This is a tweet or post or something. This was on Bleacher Report Hoops on Instagram. I took a screenshot of it so I can remember. But this guy named Trilly Donovan said, Shire, Izzo, Patino, Hurley, and Self in one region. Sheesh. Like,
wow.
You have some of the best coaches in college basketball, and they're all in one region.
That is nuts. I didn't even think about that. That is kind of egregious. There's a lot of
that's why I mean where I was saying at the beginning of the episode that there's harder paths to get to the Final Four. I think this East region is the hardest path to get to the Final Four.
I would agree. There's definitely like it's a weird like mix between the teams because you look at the West region, for example, it's a lot of these more, it seems like run and gun teams that are more modern, like an Arkansas or a BYU or a Gonzaga, like, you know, the Arizonas of the world, the teams that shoot. It really seems like they kind of regionalized it this year more than anything, and kind of broke it up because I feel like, you know, I feel like in years past, a 3-seed Gonzaga might be just thrown in the East region just because.
Yeah.
And now I feel like they're starting to kind of, maybe I'm wrong, maybe it's just how it just worked out this year, but having a Hawaii in there, a BYU, a Gonzaga, a Utah State, really, in Arizona at the top of it really kind of reinforces that for me. But I think it is really interesting how kind of the regions are kind of themed in a way. If you really want to frame it, I feel like they're all kind of similar teams. But, but I agree with you. I think that's very interesting that they threw some of the best coaches of all time in the same region. Just works out like that sometimes.
Having Patino and Self potentially facing off in the round of 32 just does mind.
It's good basketball.
It is. But
it's good. But one of them being out by maximum Saturday, is going to be
that's crazy.
Very interesting. Or Sunday, sorry for those matchups. It's going to be very interesting. I completely agree. Any more thoughts about that before we move on to the bottom part of this bracket? Because
I think Michigan State. Having that first matchup against North Dakota State. I watched that conference championship game, and there was North Dakota versus North Dakota State. I will say this, probably the most entertaining game of basketball I've watched in probably 8 years. It was, for whatever reason, so much fun. And that North Dakota State team is not going to be a team just to go past. And then, you know, potentially going up against Louisville. It's a hard path for Michigan State. I think they could still do it with the experience and the depth in the team, and having Mr. Tom Izzo as the head coach. But potential meeting with Dan Hurley and the UConn Huskies at the Sweet 16 doesn't look too promising. Really excited for my Spartans this year, though. Let's go Sparty, go green.
Any thoughts about that Louisville-South Florida game?
I think that game is going to be a lot closer than people think. It also depends on the availability of Michael Brown. If he doesn't play, I think South Florida definitely has a shot to win this game. They won 25 games this year. They're nothing to just look past. Their coach, a former assistant at UB as well, so almost a homecoming for him. So they're going to want to perform. A lot of people are overlooking them, but this is a very good South Florida team. They're very physical. They get up and down the floor. And if Louisville doesn't have Michael Brown, they don't really have someone to control the team as much, and they don't really have that score that they can go to in late game situations.
You couldn't have said it more perfectly, CJ. I mean, South Florida is probably the most physical team in the country, I think, the way that they play. And I think they have to, being the mid-major in the conference that they're in. And they really proved it. They are one of the best mid-majors in the country. I think an 11 seed for them is terrible. I think there's a lot of weird seedings this year. We'll get to one that I think is totally, once again, egregious. I'll say it, in the West region, I think. But the homecoming is very interesting because I saw for the South Florida coach, his dad has never seen him coach live.
Oh, wow.
And for the first, because he's sick, I'm pretty sure. So he's for the first, and he can't travel. So this will be the first time in the hometown he'll be able to go and watch his son coach live. That's going to be pretty cool.
That is pretty
Little
cool.
chip on the shoulder for the South Florida team and for the coach. And maybe they're going to be playing maybe a little bit extra harder if the motivation of being in March Madness wasn't enough. Playing for your coach a little bit extra, that could be enough to get them over a hump, especially if Brown is not playing.
And definitely them potentially playing for the coach for the last time with him getting another job somewhere.
Yep. Yeah. And I want to mention about that Michigan State game, something that I think is pretty interesting. Last time the games were in Buffalo, me and CJ know all too well, South Dakota State was one of the teams that was there. Now North Dakota State there. And North Dakota State is having some fun with the Buffalo teams. They're creating a little pact. And let me just say, if I wasn't rooting for North Dakota State before because they're playing Michigan State, I definitely am now. Because they've been posting stuff about the Sabres logo, the Bills logo, and the Bison's logo, all about them being all Bison brothers and stuff like that, and how they're all tied together. And I think it's a good little mix there, and I could see them maybe playing a second game in Buffalo. I think that would be a pretty interesting twist on this on this tournament. I will say 14 seeds. There has been one that has won, I'm pretty sure, 5 of the last 7 years or something like that. There's been a good trend since COVID of 14 seeds winning. So not saying that's the game that it would be, but if one of the top 4 teams has to go out, sorry, Gav, but I think Michigan State they had done it in the past. They might be that team.
Yeah, I don't want to see another Middle Tennessee year because that was brutal.
I think they could go to the Final Four and potentially the championship, but they're one of those teams that could bottom out first weekend too.
I definitely get that, but especially how we were playing as of late.
Yeah,
I definitely see that.
For sure. And then UCLA, UCF down there, 2 teams that were kind of on the bubble there. And then UConn and Furman, that game should be straightforward. Let's see if the Paladins can pull off another one like they did get against Virginia when they were a 13 seed. A 13 seed about 3 years ago. I think that was our freshman year. So that was great game there.
Watching that one in class right there.
That was a good one. That was one of the early games.
Yeah, it was.
Maybe the first game of the tournament.
Might have been.
Let's move on to the South region here. We got Florida versus that play-in team. Is there any way that the national champs lose this game?
I think it would be funny if they did.
That'd be very funny.
No chance.
No, I don't think there's any chance that Florida lets up. Especially, I was watching some of the SEC tournament, and now they have another chip on their shoulder that they might not have had. I know the SEC championship isn't the national championship, but still, like, winning your conference has a lot of pride that comes with it, and having an earlier exit that they definitely wanted, they officially have a new chip on their shoulder to kind of go prove that they should be this 1 seed to be where they are. And is Duke the number 1 overall, right?
Duke's the number 1 overall, and I think, like you said, the chip on the shoulder for Florida, they're the national champs and nobody's treating them like it. It's weird. It's because they've had this weird up and down roller coaster season. They started the season number 2 or 3 in the preseason poll. They eventually fell out of the rankings at some point, and then they worked their way back up to being a 1 seed. Just an incredible path for a team that you usually never see. But that they could potentially be playing the winner of Clemson and Iowa, which is another one of those big swing games that nobody really knows where to go. I'm going to be leaning personally towards Iowa, just because I always think if you're going against a Big Ten team versus an ACC team, I'm going to take the Big Ten team most of the time. So I'm going to take Iowa in that game, but I think that game could go either way.
I agree. I feel like it's a very good matchup for these 2 teams. Iowa has Bennett Sturtz at point guard. I've been averaging about 21 points this season. In March, we always say you gotta have good guard play to win. So I feel like Iowa swings that way.
I do too. I also think with Clemson also having some key departures from where they have been March Madness for the past couple of years, I think the less experience is not going to help them. And I think Iowa will probably find a way to come out of that one, even though they'll probably meet their match in the round of 32.
An interesting matchup here again for 2 teams that have been very popular within the last year. Vanderbilt and McNeese. Interesting storyline here. I don't think McNeese should have been a 12 seed. I think that's just me personally.
What do you think they should have been?
I think they should be I think there's a 13 seed in the West region, the Rainbow Warriors. That should be a 12 seed, 100% over any of these 12 seeds maybe. And I think they got snubbed. I was on Hawaii's train all year, and I was very disappointed that they were a 13 seed. I get it. They're not in the best conference, but they did win their conference, and I think they're better than some of these teams. But nonetheless, I think that's the reason why Vanderbilt easily takes out McNeese in this game. All the metrics lie with Vanderbilt right now. They're within all of the national champion, whatever, not the trapezoid of excellence quite, but like, those efficiency rankings and stuff, they fit within all of that.
They're hot right now.
So it's very interesting to see, and they're one of those teams that I could totally see knocking out Florida because of that SEC connection in the Sweet 16. That could be a interesting path there. But what do you guys think about Vanderbilt and that little part of the bracket there with Nebraska underneath that?
I think this is so interesting. I think this might be one of the most interesting parts of the bracket, because the way that Vanderbilt and Vanderbilt and Nebraska can match up against each other in the round of 32, I think that would be a really good game. But this is like the point you were saying about the ACC and Big Ten. When it comes to the SEC and the Big Ten this year, I think I'm choosing SEC teams. So I think I would choose Vanderbilt, especially coming off that SEC championship run. I think that they are poised for success to get to the Sweet 16, and I think that Nebraska's highs of the season are far behind them now. And I think that they got in. I mean, they deserve to get in. I'm not saying they didn't. I'm just saying that they're over the peak. I think they're on their way down. I'm not saying they're going to lose to Troy, but I think they're going to be a first weekend exit. And if they don't, they'll meet their match against Florida.
Nebraska's playing the second game of the tournament, by the way, too.
Back to the Vanderbilt McNeese game. A lot of people talk about McNeese's defense, how they turn people over, but I don't think Vanderbilt will be fazed by it. They've been playing the SEC all year. They've seen length, they've seen size, they've seen speed, so I feel like they get past McNeese no problem. Also, great guard play with Duke Miles and Tyler Tanner will be able to lead them to victory. And then in the Nebraska-Troy game, like you said, I think Nebraska gets past Troy, although they do have a lot of pressure on themselves, never winning an NCAA tournament game. So it's going to be in the back of the player's mind, going to want to play extra hard. But the Troy team is also very good. So if they can keep it close within the last 10 minutes of the game, they definitely have a shot to win that game. But back to what you were saying, I think Vanderbilt gets past Nebraska too.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think Vanderbilt, in the way that I'm talking about it, I think they even get past Florida. At least in this bracket that I'm doing right now as we're going through this and talking. I would have loved to see the Troy and McNeese flip at least those seeds. I think those matchups would have been maybe a little bit better.
Yeah.
Just because I think McNeese has a better shot to beat Nebraska than Troy. Obviously, they're a better team.
Yeah.
They're one seed higher, so yeah, they're better. But at the same time, I think McNeese was a quality of a 13 seed that could have easily been there, and I think they could have been that 13 seed to beat the 4 seed, and I think Nebraska got lucky that they got Troy matched up against them in the first round. So let's move on now to this lower part of the region. We got an A10 team.
I like this
moving
matchup
on now
a lot.
Against a team that's seen another A10 team earlier this year. CJ was in attendance for that game. North Carolina taking on the VCU Rams and Barry Evans. Shout out to Barry Evans, 2-time NCAA appearances for him. So do you guys think VCU has a shot in this game? And obviously they probably do. But where do you guys think that their ceiling is in this tournament? And if you just want to include St. Louis in this conversation, we can too. But we can also wait for them if you guys would like.
I definitely think VCU has a shot in this game. Obviously, no Caleb Wilson for North Carolina. A lot of people have been talking about Henry Vasar and how nobody can match up with him. But I think Lazar Djokovic, or whatever his name is, I think they match very well. He's a little bit more athletic than Vasar, so that should be an interesting matchup, making him play on the perimeter a little bit. But I think VCU has better guards than North Carolina. Seth Trimble for North Carolina is going to be a tough matchup, but VCU has 3 or 4 guards that they can play throughout the game. They also have a 6-man who comes off the bench, and I forgot his name, but he averages most points per minute in the NCAA. So North Carolina's not very deep right now. It's going to be difficult for them, but I think VCU definitely has a shot to win this game.
I also think VCU has a shot to win this game. Like CJ was just mentioning, the injuries that North Carolina has, their depth is definitely going to be questionable for this game. And I think when I look at VCU, I mean, maybe it's just because I'm A10 bias here, but I think, the VCU matchups that they've had the past couple of years, I think I've kept picking them because I know who they are and I know how they match up against some of these different teams. And especially, I think in the first round, I think this might also be VCU could honestly go to the Sweet 16. I think they could upset Illinois too while they're at it. I think I'm confident on VCU this year. They won the conference for a reason, and deservedly so. And I think they can make some noise in this March for sure.
Not to mention they've won 6 games in a row as well.
Yeah, and they're hot right now.
I love it. A point I wanted to mention, you guys just reminded me with VCU. VCU is a good example of a team that stays hot. It's good to stay hot. Vanderbilt's a good example of a team that they needed to lose a game at some point if they really wanted to go on a run. I think losing to Arkansas really actually helped Vanderbilt with their chances to win the tournament. Yeah. Because now, instead of winning, what would it have been, 12 in a row? Now they only have to win 6 in a row. They lost that chance. It's disappointing, but they earned the respect of everybody getting to the championship game in the SEC. They were playing in their home city. We'll say that. I think that helps a little bit. Maybe, yeah. But nonetheless, they did get there, and they earned the respect of everybody, and I think that's going to help them push further in the tournament as well. But back to VCU, I think VCU is a great example of just an A10 team. They perfectly embody what an A10 team is. They're gritty. Everybody plays well. They need a good rotation around them. They have good coaching. They have everything. And I think they do have the qualities to lose in the first round. But I think they also could beat in North Carolina and in Illinois if they do beat Penn. Yeah. But I don't think VCU does get past the Sweet 16 because they would have to run into the Houston Cougars probably. So let's talk about that that last part of the South region before we move on. Houston, one of the teams that I've been on for the whole year. I love Houston. I'm going to have them going at least out of this region. If you want to include them over Vanderbilt, if you want to put them over Florida, whatever it is, I have Houston winning this region, I'm pretty sure.
I think the biggest thing about Houston, I think that they have a pretty good shot at least making the Elite Eight. I mean, I think with favorable matchups on the course of getting to match up against potentially what I have in like many brackets is Florida. I think specifically who they're going to match up in the second round. I think my favorite pick of this tournament might be the Texas A&M over St. Mary's. I see myself trending to wanting to pick that almost every time. I think Texas A&M is battle tested, and St. Mary's, I mean, they had the WCC was okay this year. I mean, they actually had a couple decent, and they have 3 teams in the dance, which you'll always take that, and that is good competition. But at the same time, it's not the SEC that Texas A&M had to battle through just to get here. So I think that Texas A&M matchup is favorable for them compared to some of the other 7 seeds that they could have been playing, like a Kentucky or like a Miami or UCLA. I think that's probably the most favorable matchup that Texas A&M was handed, and I think that Houston will definitely make some noise though. But once they meet Florida though, or potentially, I'm not saying that Florida is going to be there, but potentially seeing Florida in the Elite Eight, that could be a really fun one right there.
Yeah, a national championship rematch of last year, which is kind of what I was kind of alluding with the theme of that kind of bracket.
Okay.
Was teams that you've seen in March Madness a lot, and you'll probably see them again. Florida and Houston right there probably will meet in the Sweet 16, but I wouldn't be shocked if a Vanderbilt or Illinois or VCU maybe pulls it out. And let's not underrate North Carolina. I mean, they're always a squad that could go on a run. They still have some guys, but they're still not really as much as what they would be without their star in Caleb Wilson. But let's move on to the other half of the bracket, the West region, starting at the top. One of the most energetic, and I think that's the best word for it, energetic matchups of the tournament. We got Arizona, the Wildcats, versus Fins Up, and the LIU Sharks in their first.
Did you see the story about that?
In their first NCAA tournament appearance, right?
Yep.
Is that true?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, wait.
Maybe second?
I don't know.
But first in the NEC.
Yes.
Yeah, that's why.
So, what were you going to say
was
again?
the story about where the Fins Up came from. I saw these 2 guys talking about it, randomly just choosing a team that's never been to the dance. I'm pretty sure that was like their goal, was they chose a team that's never been to the dance, and they were going to stick it out with them. And
love that. That's what college basketball is all about,
man,
and they've gone to prove that this year. I actually saw a TikTok of Fins Up 2 years ago. At the end, I think he was in the NEC tournament. CJ, probably when you were still playing in the NEC. I think that season I saw the Fins Up TikToks. I don't know, were they doing it then?
From experience, when we played there 2 years ago, there was nobody in the stands, so it kind of happened after. But
okay.
I remember
I remember
momentum.
maybe I saw the first TikToks of them doing the Fins Up then,
but
the end of the season.
I can confirm there was nobody doing that.
Okay.
Well, I mean, I think most of even this year was probably just like 5 guys until they actually started.
No, it was never
popularity.
many people, but I saw at least the one guy.
Yeah,
I saw the videos of the one guy doing it in the closed, like, because I think Barstool posted it or something like that. It was just the one guy with the clap. It's the deafening clap that you can hear echo throughout the gym in Long Island, and they always hit the free throws after they do it too. So shout out to Long Island. They're going to be in the tournament.
Tell you, America's rooting for Long Island.
Oh yeah, they're America's team right now.
Yeah.
I think Arizona's the wrong team to play because I think a lot of people will be having Arizona maybe win the national championship.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, that'll be a good game. I think that'll be a more competitive game, maybe not, but it might be a more competitive game than people lead on. Shout out to Long Island. Utah State and Villanova is the next game. This is one of these weird matchups where, in my mind, there's no doubt that Utah State's going to lose this game.
I have a great feeling about Utah State too. I don't know why. I think maybe it's because I mentioned them on the last.
I don't like Villanova's team at all.
I don't either, and I don't think that they. I don't know. I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of Villanova even being really in the dance. I mean, they deserve it. They should be here, but at the same time, they don't look like a March Madness team.
Big East was very, very weak this year. I think they got helped with that.
They did. Definitely.
I think that's why they slid them at the 8 seed, because they really got to prove it if you're the 8 seed. You got to beat, a similar game, and then you got to beat a potential 1 seed. But I think that Utah State's going to be a better team in this game. CJ, this is one of those toss-up games. What do you think about this one?
I definitely have Utah State too. They play a little bit of different style than Villanova, but they have Mason Falslev who can score at any level. Villanova doesn't really have anybody that can match up with that. And like you said, a weak Big East this year. It's going to be a train wreck for Villanova. I don't think they put up 70 points.
Wow. So blowout there, CJ. One of the closest seeded games is going to be one of the maybe biggest differentials of the tournament right there from CJ. Another interesting part, these 5-12, 4-13 matchups just seem to be the most interesting parts of the bracket every time. We got Wisconsin versus High Point, which is a trendy team versus a team that not many people have much faith in, but it definitely is a solid squad. And then the most disappointing matchup to me, Hawaii getting matched up against Arkansas. Hawaii could have went on a run in this tournament if they didn't get matched up against this team. I'm very disappointed. So just thoughts about this little pocket of the bracket.
I mean, I think my initial reaction of seeing this, potentially having Wisconsin and Arkansas face off in the round of 32. If Wisconsin gets past Arkansas, I think Wisconsin has a shot against Arizona. I think Wisconsin is one of those teams that they might be that 5 seed that sneaks into the Elite 8 and maybe even sneaks into the Final Four depending on who they see. If they see like someone like Purdue, I think Wisconsin can beat Purdue. I don't think Purdue's all that.
I think when you get to the conference matchups, I think it's a toss-up.
I do too, but I just think either Wisconsin or Arkansas can both have a chance to beat Arizona, even though I do think Arizona's a very good squad. I'm just saying that those are the 4 or 5 seeds that both the 4 or 5 seed that I think has the most likely chance to beat a number 1 seed this year.
I agree. Wisconsin, a very streaky team. They could make 15 threes in a game. They could also make 2 threes in a game. So if you're going to pick a 12-5 upset, it would definitely be this. High Point, almost the script for a 12-5 upset with a high major player at High Point with Cameron Fletcher, who started at Kentucky. He's going to want to make his name heard in the dance. But like I said, Wisconsin, they could also make 15 threes in a game. Great backcourt with John Blackwell and Nick Boyd, averaging almost 60 points throughout the Big 10 tournament together. But back to the Arkansas game, if Wisconsin gets hot, they can beat anybody, but they can also lose to anybody if they shoot horrible, almost similar to Alabama in play styles. But I think Arkansas is a very good team. I think they can compete with Arizona if they get past Wisconsin. Like we were saying before, they have a great coach in Coach Cal. And Darius Acuff, I think he's the guy that you can put the team on your back and take them all the way to the Final Four.
I have High Point winning. I don't care. I have High Point winning this game. I think that last year they were the trendy pick. I think they got their feet under them last year.
The next Jack Golke too, right? People are saying that they have the next Jack Golke.
Yeah, and that's
Kid
fine.
Just lights it up from 3.
That's fine. That's fine. He might be good in the second round against Arkansas, but I think in the first round game, I think it actually might be that guy in the first round game. I think they're going to have to match Wisconsin's 3-point shooting, basically. I think Wisconsin will be hot from 3, but I think High Point's going to be hotter. So I think that the 12 seed, one of them's got to win.
One of them does.
So I think in this bracket, at least as we're talking about it, and you know what? If we did this episode in 3 hours from now, we would be a completely different thing than what we're talking about right now. But that's the beauty of March Madness. And that's the beauty of bracket making. And like I said, I like Arkansas in that matchup against Hawaii, but I would have loved to pick Hawaii in another matchup. But I think Arkansas is just too good of a team to lose in the first round, and I think to lose in the second round as well. I think just when you have that caliber of a player in Acuff and that caliber of a coach that believes in that caliber of player, I think special things happen in the tournament. So.
I think too. What was it? Last year that Arkansas went on a nice little run too.
Yeah. So nobody really. They were what, a 7
seed,
6 or 7 seed or 8 seed.
Yeah, they were 8 9 seed, right?
Did they beat St. John's or they lost to St. John's?
They beat St. John's. You're right.
Yeah, they went on a run.
They beat St. John's. Yes,
and this is a better team. And I think that's why I think if Arkansas gets up against Arizona, I think there's a good shot Arkansas can beat Arizona, try to take the crown for the region for sure.
Anything to note in these last 4 games down here? I like BYU to win that game, but I think whoever wins that game has a good shot to beat Gonzaga.
Either two. I really do. I completely agree.
Honestly, after that BYU game, I think BYU is going to beat Texas or NC State, but the hardest game in the whole bracket that I've had to pick is BYU Gonzaga. I've been going back and forth the whole day. Gonzaga has a great team. Graham Ike been left off a lot of first-team All-American, all those All-American teams, so he's going to be hungry. He's been killing all year. Nobody's been able to compete with him. But also AJ, nobody can guard him. He's been putting up 40 points whenever he wants to.
Yeah.
So this is really a toss-up game for me. It's been so difficult to choose who's going to win this game. It could go either way for me, but whoever wins that game could also go on a run and has a chance to beat Arizona. BYU almost beat Arizona earlier in the season when Arizona had a lot of turnovers at the end of the game. BYU came back. But also Gonzaga has a lot of experience, a lot of old guys. So it's very difficult for me to choose a winner of that game.
There's a big difference between the feeling of the 6th seed of North Carolina and the feeling of the 6th seed of BYU, I feel like.
Oh, yeah. I completely agree with that.
Even though it could have been very similar if Caleb Wilson was there, obviously. But I think, just like you said, I think Devonta's great. I think Rob Wright's amazing. But I think this BYU team, it's one or two. I think it's none or two. I think it's either they win no games or I think they win two in this tournament.
Okay.
I don't think they're one of those teams that loses the round of 32. So basically, with that logic, it's Gonzaga's at the hands of basically that Texas-NC State game of who's going to win that first of all, and then if that team beats BYU, I think Gonzaga wins, and then I think if BYU wins, it comes out on top of that game, I think they take down Gonzaga. But BYU is not the 6th seed, and they're a team that could have been a 5. They're not the 6th seed that you would want to see in this tournament.
I definitely think, though, if anybody can put the team on the back, it's AJ. I think he could go, if he wanted to, he could go for 50 and take his team for victory.
This is an easy region for him to get out of as a 6th seed. I feel like the maybe the weakest 3 seed in Gonzaga, and definitely probably the weakest 2 seed in Purdue, and as well as just the rest of the regions. A lot of bubble teams until you get to the Elite 8. So I think that side of the region is very digestible for BYU if they can get past that first game.
I think that we're just sleeping on the Owls of Kennesaw State right here. No, I'm just joking. But, somebody had to come in and say something about Kennesaw State because we look completely right past
I'm sorry, yeah, but Gonzaga is just a different,
respect.
We just had to give them some love, all right?
We have to mention everybody. I don't think we said Idaho on here. Shout out to Idaho.
Yeah, Idaho is in this tournament as well, playing Houston. That is one of those automatic 215s where I'm like, yep, Houston. Like, I don't even think about it.
The Miami-Mizzou game is also kind of weird. I like Miami in this game. I like that. I like their team that they've had this whole year. I know that the SEC team versus ACC team, but I think it's a little bit different. I think it's a little bit different. I think Miami's maybe the best 7th seed that they're at. I don't really know. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean UCLA
I think
went on a
maybe
run.
Kentucky's a little bit better, but Miami, I think they're definitely a high quality 7th seed. They're definitely a better team than Missouri, so I think Missouri would have to play their best game maybe to beat Miami. Maybe not their best game, but you know what I mean. I'm going to take Miami in that one.
I definitely like Miami too. Even though Missouri's basically playing a home game, they're playing in Missouri. Like Jay Lucas said, he doesn't care if they're playing on the moon. It's still a normal game for them. They're going to go out there and compete. Obviously, props to Jay Lucas making the tournament in his first year. It's a great season. And I think Miami can definitely beat Purdue too. Like you said, I'm not very high on Purdue at all. This is a very vulnerable team. Obviously, they won the Big Ten. They went on a run. But it would be great to see Braden Smith break that assist record in the first game, but I don't think they get much farther past that. Definitely, if Queens were to upset Purdue, I would not be surprised either, though.
They're talking a lot of smack right now. Oscar Clough or whatever his name was. Basically, it was just like, yeah, they're in New York, right? And then they're all like laughing, like when the reporters like asking them about Queens, they're all just like laughing and stuff, which it's fair, I guess, right? But it's like, I've heard Queens has 2 buildings on their campus, but like at the same time, it's like, come on, just
also Queens being first year eligible as well.
Respect the team that you're playing in the tournament, especially from one of the only 2 schools that's a 1 seed to lose to a 16.
I feel like Purdue's a little bit cocky too.
Oh yeah, they're not that. I mean, they've gone on a run late in the season. They weren't considered anything above a 4 seed before 2 weeks ago, and all of a sudden they're a 2 seed. And they have this huge ego about them. I like the Queens upset at 15 of any of the 15 or 16 teams to win. I love that take right there, but I still think Purdue gets past them. I would like them to get out in the first weekend.
I think Purdue, the thing that they show us, except for the 1 year that they went to the championship against UConn, is they are just the most fraudulent March Madness team of the past probably 10 years. Every single team, except for that like Carson Edwards' team, because that was like a really fun Purdue team. But other than that,
yeah, but even then they were still supposed to make it a little bit for it. So
I just think that there is just a motto, except for that Zach Edey here, that they're poised for success. They have a favorable matchup, but I mean we see it every single time that it's March, and I think Purdue's the most vulnerable team in March, year after year.
Let's move on now to the Midwest region, the last region that we will be covering today. And leading it off, 2 games that are going to be in Buffalo on Thursday. The first one of the second session at night will be Michigan versus the winner of the game in Dayton, UMBC and Howard, the 16 seed matchup. Is there any way that Michigan, same question as Florida, is there any way that Michigan loses this game? And what do you think Michigan's ceiling is in this tournament? Do you think that they're going to win?
I think the only way Michigan loses is if UMBC is there, because they have the identity and they know how to do it. They've done it before, and that'd be the only way I see Michigan losing. I'm not giving shade to Howard. All I'm just saying is UMBC at least has that motto that they've been there before.
I feel like for UMBC it's kind of tough for them now, because I feel like they'll never be anything but, even if they're like a really like solid like Queens.
Yeah.
I don't think they'll ever be a 15 seed. I don't think they'll ever put them as a 15 just because of that game, unless they win another one.
Well, I don't know. The America East is like kind of a joke of a conference, too.
I know, but you get what I'm saying? Like, I feel like even if they do have a really good team, they won't put them as a 15 just because they'll be like, the 16 seed UMBC.
Yeah. That's true.
Because it doesn't sound. And then St. Peter's, if they get in, they'll be a 15 every time.
But other, right. But other than that, I just think that, I think Michigan will. They're gonna win. I really think that they're gonna handle the first round. I think that they have a lot of their matchups, their potential matchups, just getting to the Elite Eight. I think their floor is the Elite Eight. That's why I truly believe.
I agree with that. Watching, and we'll talk about it, the Georgia-St. Louis game. Watching that St. Louis team the whole year, they're a beatable team. They're a very beatable team.
When it comes to March, yes.
I would love them to win a game in the tournament. That's why I'm going to pick them in the first round against Georgia.
As well.
But I'm going to have them losing to Michigan.
And I also think the thing about Michigan, so I think their ceiling is national championship. I think their floor is the Elite Eight. And the reason why I say floor is Elite Eight is because I do think that Iowa State could give them a really good run for their money to get to the Final Four.
Yeah, just the Buffalo region right there. I'll be in attendance for both of these games. I'll talk about the Michigan game first. Obviously, I don't see any problems with UMBC or Howard. Michigan's been feeling the loss of LJ Case in a little bit. Roddy Gale, homecoming for him, going to have everybody in attendance in the building for him. So I feel like this is a chance for him to get on a little run, give them a spark off the bench, and maybe get him going for the rest of the tournament. And then I'm actually very excited for the Georgia-St. Louis game. That's the main reason I wanted to go. St. Louis has 5 players averaging 10-plus points per game, but Georgia just has a lot of big physical guys. Obviously, St. Louis has Robbie Avila, but Georgia is just way too strong for St. Louis, I feel like. St. Louis can score the ball, but this Georgia team, I watched them play against Alabama. They just have, like, big, brolic, strong dudes, and I don't think Robbie Avila can compete with that. And then Michigan facing Georgia, I don't think Michigan has a problem with Georgia at all. I had Michigan and Alabama in the Elite Eight, subject to change with Aiden Holloway's availability, but I think Michigan gets past Alabama as well.
That whole story's crazy, man. Yeah, something you can do in a lot. I mean, maybe not what he was doing, but
hey, man, I'm not condoning anything
no.
like that, but I'm just saying you could raid anybody's team and find a little bit worse than that.
Yep. Yeah, that's all we'll say. We'll leave it at that. Wow, Alabama's really had some questionable offenses around March in the past, but let's leave it at that. Texas Tech is going to be a tough matchup for Alabama if both those squads move on, but I want to talk about the Akron team right there real quick.
Actually,
I think they got screwed.
They're the most picked 12 seed as of right now, though.
I think that's fair just because I think it's like, oh, JT Toppin's out for Texas Tech, but I don't think people really realize how many other guys that they have.
Yeah.
Texas Tech legit, man. They I think if they were in the region in this spot with maybe where, let's say if they were in the region with Florida, and they were the 5 seed there and they swapped them for Vanderbilt. I think I'm picking Texas Tech maybe.
Oh, and they have to play McNeese?
Yeah, I think Texas Tech would beat McNeese. I think they beat Nebraska, and I think they'd be playing Florida in the Elite Eight.
Yeah.
Or the Sweet 16, sorry. But I think now they have to maybe get out in the first round, and then they have to play a better Bama team in that second round. So I think it's these brackets are just a little bit weird. It's just how the seeding works out. It's one of those years, but and who knows? But Texas Tech will be battle tested if they do eventually get to Michigan at that point. So
yeah.
Bottom part of that region there, Tennessee against two trendy teams, Miami, Ohio, SMU. That'll be an interesting matchup there. Is there any chance that we talked about a little bit that Miami, Ohio, SMU matchup gets past maybe a Virginia in the round of 32?
I don't think so. I don't even think Virginia gets past the round of 32. I think Tennessee has the perfect road to go to the Sweet 16. I think that they match up great against both whoever they'd play in the first round. And I really don't think Virginia's all that. I really don't. I think they're the most overrated ACC team, and I think that when we talked about it earlier, I'm picking SEC over ACC, especially with this year's SEC and how competitive it was and how mid the ACC was this year. I'm going to give it to Tennessee. I liked what I saw out of them majority of the season. And I don't think that Virginia is all of that. And I think this Virginia team gives me the same kind of vibe of the team that lost to Furman in the first round. So I'm not saying that Wright State's going to win. I'm just saying they have the same kind of vibe where, like, they're good, but they're not that good at all.
Okay.
Not compared to, like, national championship, like
Losing
ACC champions. Yeah. Like,
I know what you mean.
This is the time for Tennessee to go on a good run this March to go to the Sweet 16.
I like Tennessee, but I don't love Tennessee this year. It's like I've picked them so much in the past few years, and they're kind of like North Carolina, where they're kind of in this weird like lull of their program where they were great for so long. I mean, not so long, but maybe not as much as North Carolina, but they were great for a little bit. 1 seeds for a few years or whatever, 2 seeds. Now they're back to the 6. If they were playing the 11 seed that didn't play in the play-in, I think I'd be picking them. But because the other team is going to be playing a game, I think I'm going to take the 11 seed, whoever that is, against Tennessee, which I think sets up well in what
Who do you think wins that game? SMU or Miami of Ohio?
I don't know. I really don't know, and I'm very excited for that game. But if I'm going to say Miami, Ohio.
Okay.
Just for the vibes. But I think Miami, Ohio winning. Actually, I will say this: if Miami, Ohio wins that game, they will lose to Tennessee. But if SMU wins that game, they will beat Tennessee.
Okay.
That's my prediction. But regardless, I am having to move on and playing Virginia. I think it's really just a cakewalk to set up for Iowa State moving on to the Elite Eight. I think that Kentucky, Santa Clara, they're two very similar teams. I like Santa Clara in that game personally. I don't like Pope. I think he's fine. But I think that this Kentucky team, it's been in the gutter all year. And I think it's one of those seasons that you're just like, just get it over with. Just end it. Maybe they win against Santa Clara, but I think they lose at minimum in the round of 32 against the Iowa State team, because that Iowa State team has the potential to go into the Final Four and potentially win a national championship.
I think that they have potential to win the national championship this year, for sure. And I think also with that Kentucky team, for how much money they paid for that team, for how underwhelming it was, I think that probably a lot of Kentucky fans wouldn't mind if they lost in the first weekend to Santa Clara. To kind of just, like you said, write it off.
Just get it over with, I think, this year. I think there's been a lot of disappointing back-to-back seasons for Kentucky. Not saying that they're going in a bad direction. They're kind of like UNC and Tennessee in that way, where they're kind of in a lull of their program. They need one guy to really dig them out of it. I don't know what the recruiting class is looking like. I don't know if they do either. But I think next year, hopefully Kentucky can get back into that top 5 range where they usually are. But CJ, what are your thoughts about that little part?
I don't want to be that guy, but I think Miami of Ohio loses by 20+ points tomorrow.
To SMU?
Yes.
I also think they lose.
Why though?
I just don't think Miami of Ohio, they've had whatever the schedule thing, but I feel like the ACC and the MAC to drop off is just...
That's fair.
In athletes, in skill level, SMU is a very good team too. They've had some injuries this year. They also beat North Carolina. They have guys who can score. Boopy Miller, a bunch of guys. I don't think that Miami of Ohio competes. I mean, it would be great to see them just to write off all the haters and everything.
Which is kind of why I said, like, if SMU wins, I guess I think they beat Tennessee. And I think if Miami Ohio wins, I think that's it for them, because that's kind of, kind of what it's felt like the whole year. It's like, they win that overtime game. It's like, all right, next game, they're probably, all right, they're going to Bowling Green. They'll probably lose that one, right? And then they win that one by 20. And then it's the Saturday. It was always the Saturday games they were going to OT. But regardless, I think that's going to be a fun little part of the bracket to monitor there. Stay tuned for those games coming up.
And then just touching on that Santa Clara Kentucky game, this is a very intriguing game for me.
Yeah.
I watched every one of Santa Clara's games in the WCC tournament. This is a very good Santa Clara team. First time making the tournament in 30 years. They got an NBA prospect in Alan Graves coming off the bench as their sixth man, and they have really good guard play as well. Another point guard from, I think, Romania coming off the bench, Sash something. He's very good too. Kentucky has had an up and down year. They're going to have to run through Otega Owe, but I think Santa Clara just plays the game too well for Kentucky to compete. Kentucky, they tend to get into a little bit of just an ISO game and play one-on-one too much. Santa Clara is much more of a team than Kentucky, I think.
Kentucky tries to play too much NBA ball.
Definitely.
They do, yeah. That's a good way to put
college. It kind of just clicked for me.
With their $22 million roster going down in the first round.
Right. Yeah, but that's kind of what I'm saying. Just get it over with this year.
Exactly.
Like just, if it didn't work out and you're spending that much, you're going to make the tournament. But, like, this is, like, the rock bottom, quote, for Kentucky. Like,
for how much they spent on that roster.
For how much you spent on the roster, like, being the 7th seed, it's just
that was the floor.
It's so disappointing. And most of that was that lull at the start of the SEC conference schedule in January and the end of the out-of-conference schedule, which really, put them out of it for a little bit. But now they're kind of on the way back up. I could see this being a good game, but I think it's going to be one of those games that Santa Clara takes control of later in the game.
Santa Clara is also just coached too well. They're too disciplined. Kentucky, I don't think they have that discipline. It's kind of almost me-ball out there.
No, Pope's a good coach, but he's just like, he's too lax with some stuff, and he's NBA. It's the word to describe. It's kind of, I mean, I love the NBA, but it's just a different type of basketball. So it's you just got to adjust to that. Iowa State, I don't think they have any problem getting past Tennessee State. Do you guys have any objections with that?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I think Iowa State is a great team.
So
they're phenomenal.
Now that we're going through all the regions now, let's talk about one team from each region you think is going to get to the Final Four out of this. I know we've speculated about a lot of teams, gone back and forth, talking about a lot of teams, but now's the time to really hammer it down.
Yeah.
What are you guys thinking?
What region are we starting with?
Let's start with where we started. Start in the East. Who do you guys think is coming out of the East region?
I like Michigan State. Duke, I think it's a tough matchup for Michigan State. But Michigan State has two bigs. Duke has injuries in Caleb Foster and Patrick Gungba. I don't know if Gungba's going to be back for the tournament at all. Michigan State, saw them play earlier in the year. Great guard play, Jeremy Fears with the floor general, and I think they're a good all-around team. They've had a lot of ups and downs, but like you said, Tom Izzo and March, if they get it clicking, they can go on this run and make it to the Final Four. They're very disciplined, like I was talking about before, and they just have a great all-around team that meshes well together, I think.
I also think Michigan State is one of those teams that will get there. I think the potential matchup of Michigan State-UConn, I think whoever wins that game can escape and go to the Final Four. I'm not saying Duke's not a great team, because that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying I think both Michigan State and UConn both have a chance of beating Duke. So I'm going to take one of those two teams, which I will take Michigan State because of the depth and comparison with UConn. I also like how they spread the floor with those two bigs and with Fears, and they have Carr, who spreads the floor very well. They have Tang, who comes off the bench. They also have Cam Ward, who comes off the bench as well. They just have a lot of depth, and I'm going to take Tom Izzo in March, especially last year when they were down against Ole Miss, I believe, or Bryant. It was one of the first weekends, first games, and Jeremy Fears was getting called out in the locker room, and Jeremy Fears looked at Tom Izzo and he says, "I want this game more than you." And then he let him just take control of it.
All
so
right.
I think that's the biggest thing. It's
the March mindset right there.
Yeah, there's too much team chemistry in this Michigan State team to be an early exit, and I think they needed these down couple of up and down weeks to help them propel into a March team that can make a decent run.
I definitely don't want to write off Duke at all, though. A lot of people are writing them off because of these injuries. They're still the number one overall seed for a reason. They still have Cam Boozer, who's been dominating, and nobody can guard him. So I'm not surprised if Duke makes it to the Final Four as well.
Especially how well they're coached, too. John Schuyer's a great coach.
Which is why I'm going to say I'm excited for that Duke-Michigan State game. That's going to be a good game. Because the more I'm looking at this, Gav, since you pointed it out, in my mind, I'm looking at this East region, in the round of 32, and it's kind of like a 5-team bracket in a way, where it's the top 5 seeds, and I'm not even looking at the schools. I'm thinking about the coaches now.
Yeah,
that's all I'm thinking about. I'm thinking about these 5 coaches that are some of the best of all time.
Yeah.
And they're all stuck in the same region.
Isn't that crazy?
It's nuts.
Yeah.
Absolutely nuts to think about that. Izzo and Hurley. One of them's gonna be out at maximum the Sweet 16, if not both. Maybe. I mean, probably
having
not.
Either Patino or Bill Self potentially
out
be
in
out
the first weekend.
First weekend.
It's nuts. But I think Duke wins that region. I think they come out on top. I don't want to say pretty handily, but I think that if they stay healthy and they get some of their guys back, I think there's no question that they win the region.
Yeah, and I also I do have Duke going pretty far in some of my brackets. I'm not writing them off either. I think they're very, very well coached. I think John Schuyer's really brought that program back to a true blue blood.
Oh yeah. In the South region down there's a few teams that can come out of it. We talked about Florida. We talked about Houston. We talked about Vanderbilt even. Who do you guys think's coming out of that South region?
I think this is one of the hardest ones to pick. I think both the South and the Midwest, for me, are the hardest ones to pick. And I think when it comes down to it, I don't want to sound boring, but I do have either Florida or Houston coming out of this side.
Which one?
And that's where the problem lies. I think what I saw in specifically, I'm going to bring up a weird game, but I saw it when Florida was playing Kentucky in the SEC Championship. The defense that they were playing with, and I know we were just kind of talking bad about Kentucky, but I am a big fan of Condon. I like how he jumps with anybody. I like how they space out the floor a lot, specifically with perimeter shooting as well. But I think with the Gators having a challenging but favorable path to the Elite Eight, I think that it can help them with Houston can have maybe a little bit harder path just to get to the Elite Eight. So I will take Florida, but that would be like a 3-point game at most.
I have Houston coming out of that region. I think it's going to be a very difficult matchup for them with Florida. Florida's difficult to match up with anybody in the country with 3 7-footers that can play any position they want. I think in this matchup, though, it comes down to coaching. Kelvin Sampson having a lot more experience than Todd Golden. I think, like you said, it comes down to a 1-possession game. I think Houston comes out of that game with a victory.
I got Houston.
You're riding with your boys, man.
Yeah, I'm riding with my guys. I think Houston comes out of it. I think just the fact of whether it be Vanderbilt they'll be playing, whether it be Florida, I think this season's all about revenge for them. I mean, they didn't get the shot up in the last possession of the national championship last year. A lot of those guys are, if not all of them, are still on the team from this year. So I don't know. I think this Houston team, I've been saying it all year. I can't go against them now.
Yeah.
I have them coming out of this region. Let's go to the West region now. Personally, for me, I got Arizona. I think that the Big 12 tournament really proved it. I was a doubter of them going into that tournament. I thought Iowa State, I thought Houston even were better teams, and I think they proved me wrong, especially with that buzzer beater right at the end there. I think Arizona, and I think a sneaky team to come out is BYU the more that we talk about it. But I do think Arizona comes out of this region.
I agree. I have Arizona too. I feel like they've been the best team all year. The great matchup with Iowa State the other day, obviously winning on a buzzer beater, but they just have good all-around team. They have great bigs. They have great guard play. I think they just mesh well together. And like you said, BYU could give them problems, but once they beat that BYU team, I think they have a definite shot of winning a national championship as well.
I think it's between Arizona and Arkansas. I just really talked myself into going on to the Woo Pig train, and I think with just having Cal just at the helm again with that, they have a great team, and I think I like how both Arizona and Arkansas. The reason why I'm putting kind of like a 1A 1B because they're both so battle tested and they're both used to playing these tough games down the stretch. in late game situations. And I think because of that, I think Arizona will come out. I will choose Arizona over Arkansas, but I definitely want to give Arkansas the flowers of I actually truly believe that they can be in the Final Four this year.
And then this last region right here, the Midwest. I think you guys know who I have coming out of this one. I have Michigan, but I wish that Iowa State was in a different region because I think I might be picking them if they were in maybe 2 of the other 4 regions. But I have them losing to Michigan in the Elite Eight and the Michigan Wolverines going on to the Final Four.
This one's tough. I really like both Iowa State and Michigan, and I like both these teams even going to a national championship if when one of these teams gets out of it. I think either of these teams will be in the national championship. Not that they will win, but I think that they will be in it at least. With that being said, I just think that at the end of the day, there's just a little bit more of a chip on the shoulder for Iowa State. I think that they get more overlooked than most of these number 2 seeds. I mean, everybody's kind of overlooking Purdue, but except for Purdue, I just think that Iowa State doesn't have the recognition that they deserve this year. And I think having that chip on the shoulder and Michigan not necessarily having any chip on their shoulder right now is going to help Iowa State want that more than Michigan. So I'll have I'll have Iowa State go to the Final Four representing the West or Midwest.
For me, this is all subject to change as well, depending on what happens in Tuscaloosa. If Alabama gets out of this weekend and they are somehow able to get Aiden Holloway back next week, I like Alabama beating Iowa State in a very close game. Other than that, if they don't get Aiden Holloway back, I got Iowa State, no problem.
So what's the thought for Michigan then? You think just the wheels fall off?
I think Alabama just shoots them out of the game.
Okay.
I think
That's
Alabama
fair.
gets hot these first 2 games and they keep it rolling. Michigan, very tough matchups in the post, but the guard play again, LeBaron Philon, Aiden Holloway, I think they just shoot Michigan out of the game.
I think if Holloway's back, I think for sure that's a possibility, and especially because that would be a full week after, a full week and a half or 2 weeks after all that's happened. So it'd definitely be some time for him to get back, but they still have to get through 2 tough games before that.
I don't think the Hofstra game is going to be an easy game for them.
No, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, I think that's going to be one of
representing the CAA.
Yeah.
Yes.
The which is not the Colonial anymore. It's the Coastal Athletic Association, which I found out because I was looking, on ESPN how it has the list of the conferences and stuff. I'm looking for all the conference tournaments, and I'm looking through for the Colonial, and I'm like, I don't see, but I see the Coastal. So I don't know why they changed that. I don't know what the deal was with that, but that is the name change. So it is the Coastal now, but the CAA, regardless. And then quickly, national champion pick. Who do you guys think's win the whole thing?
CJ, I'll let you kick it off with this one.
I'll say Michigan. I'm saying Michigan. I have to. I think I've said Houston the whole year. I think Houston loses to Michigan, but that would be kind of a win-win for me. It's either the team I've been saying the whole year or the team that I partially root for, my second team in college basketball. Shout out to the Bonnies. We are not in the tournament this year, but maybe next year. With our new head coach, which is yet to be announced, but that's our little Bonnie spiel right there. Shout out to the Bonnies. CJ, who's your champion pick?
This is difficult for me. I think Arizona and Michigan State are definitely going to be in the championship. I'm going to have to go with Arizona. They've just played so well all year. Michigan State tends to have breakdowns sometimes where they can't score for certain time periods. So Arizona, they just play basketball too well. They move the ball around. They know how to play. They have great offense. They play good defense. They get up and down the floor. And then they have a closer in Jaden Bradley who can control the game, but he can also take a game-winning shot if needed. Also, they make free throws down the stretch, so it's going to be key in beating whoever they play.
I'm also going to take Arizona, and for the fact that I would have Arizona facing off against Iowa State, and I think having that win over Iowa State in the Final Four will help them gravitate to a higher level of basketball that representing the South and representing the East regions won't be able to obtain. And I think that Arizona will find a way, because I think the biggest thing that we saw with Arizona, especially when they were undefeated for so long, we just saw a lot of consistency. I think consistency is big in March, and seeing after what they did in the little Big 12 run, I think that they're destined for success this March. I think that they got hot at the right time.
I love it. Final Four is in Indy this year. Should be a good one.
The court's amazing.
The court is amazing. It's definitely better than some years past. It's going to be a good tournament. Very excited for it. I think that the second weekend on is going to be some of the best basketball that we've seen since ever.
March.
Since ever. Maybe since last March. But I'm excited for it. Any last thoughts, guys?
No, I mean, let's go Michigan State. Go green. Take it one game at a time.
CJ?
Just excited for the matchups tonight.
Yeah? All right.
I am too.
First four tonight on Tuesday, also on Wednesday. And thank you guys for listening and sticking with us. As always, follow us on our Instagram.
At Out of Bounds Podcast with a dot between every single word.
And shout out to CJ for coming on again. Thank you, CJ. We appreciate you.
Thank you guys for having me again.
And have a day.
Have a day.